Let's have a look at 5 of history's smallest figures, whose impact was much bigger than their stature. Napoleon Bonaparte, height 5'6". Born in Corsica in 1769, Napoleon's rise from an obscure artillery officer to Emperor of the French is one of the most remarkable stories in European history. After his military victories during the French Revolution, he seized political power in 1799 through a coup d'etat and crowned himself emperor in 1804. His reforms included the Napoleonic Code, which influenced legal systems worldwide by promoting principles such as equality before the law, the abolition of feudal privileges, and religious freedom. Napoleon's military campaigns were among the most extensive in European history, reshaping the political landscape of Europe. His conquests spread revolutionary ideals, but his empire collapsed after his defeat at Waterloo in 1815. Napoleon was exiled to the remote island of St. Helena, where he died in 1821. Napoleon's height, or lack of, has been exaggerated for centuries. He is often mistakenly portrayed as a short leader due to British propaganda during the Napoleonic Wars. This myth was fueled by political cartoons and satirical publications that depicted him as diminutive. In reality, at 5'6", he was of average height for his time. This misconception, known as the Napoleon complex, suggests that he overcompensated for his height with ambition and military aggression. Whilst Napoleon may have been average height, his ambitions were anything but small. Yasser Arafat, height 5'2". Born in 1929 to Palestinian parents in Cairo, Egypt, Yasser Arafat became the most recognizable leader of the Palestinian cause. As the co-founder of the Palestine Liberation Organization, the PLO, in 1964, Arafat led the Palestinian fight for nationhood and self-determination. Initially focusing on armed struggle, the PLO's tactics included guerrilla warfare and acts of terrorism. But by the 90s, Arafat shifted towards diplomacy. In a historic moment in 1993, Arafat signed the Oslo Accords with Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, who established a framework for future peace negotiations and created the Palestinian Authority. Though he shared the Nobel Peace Prize in 1994, lasting peace proved elusive, and Arafat's later years were marked by renewed violence. He died in 2004 in Paris under controversial circumstances. He was undoubtedly a giant in the fight for Palestinian independence. Mahatma Gandhi, height 5'4". Born in 1869 in British-ruled India, Mahatma Gandhi was the leader of India's struggle for independence. After studying law in England, Gandhi spent 2 decades in South Africa, fighting against racial discrimination. Returning to India in 1915, he pioneered the philosophy of non-violent resistance, Satyagraha, against British colonial rule. Gandhi led key campaigns like the Non-Cooperation Movement and the famous Salt March, which challenged British authority by defying the Salt Tax. His efforts culminated in India's independence in 1947, though he was assassinated in 1948 by a Hindu nationalist who opposed Gandhi's efforts to reconcile Hindus and Muslims. Gandhi's legacy as a symbol of peace and resistance has influenced global movements for civil rights and freedom, inspiring figures such as Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela. At only 5'4", Gandhi managed to defy the biggest empire of the world, Haile Selassie, height 5'4". Born in 1892, Haile Selassie became Emperor of Ethiopia in 1930 and led his country during one of the most turbulent periods in its history. As a modernizer, Selassie introduced Ethiopia's first constitution and worked to modernize the nation's infrastructure and military. His defiance against fascist Mussolini's invasion in 1935 and his dramatic speech at the League of Nations in 1936 made him a global symbol of resistance to European imperialism. Selassie was restored to power in 1941 after Italy's defeat in World War II. Selassie's significance goes far beyond Ethiopia, with him becoming the spiritual figurehead for the Rastafari movement, which saw him as the messianic King of Kings based on biblical prophecies. Though Selassie was overthrown in a 1974 coup, his legacy as a leader of Africa's fight against colonialism endures. Queen Victoria, height 4'11". Born in 1819, Queen Victoria became queen at just 18 in 1837 and reigned for over 63 years, one of the longest reigns in British history. Her reign marked the height of the British Empire, often referred to as the Pax Britannica, a period of relative peace maintained by British naval influence. During the Victorian era, Britain became the world's leading industrial power, and its empire stretched across the globe. Victoria's personal influence was significant. She shaped the moral tone of the age, advocating for modesty, family values, and constitutional monarchy. Her marriage to Prince Albert and their 9 children also extended her influence to the royal families of Europe. When she died in 1901, the British Empire covered a quarter of the Earth's surface. Ironically, the tiny leader had the biggest empire in world history.